if I can go down the rabbit hole in terms of minutia, you're gonna be like, I don't know, man. This was 30 years. Well, there are 7 chevrons in the sequence, but there are 9 on the gate. Were there plans for the other 2 chevrons? Was it just a design aesthetic? The 9 looked better?
No. The original plan of the movie was to do 3 movies. And so there was going to be 3 major addresses. And that's why we needed the 9. But we never got to do parts 2 and 3.
Got it. So the second film would have included an 8 chevron address?
Well, it would have included one of the other chevrons that was not in the original.
Ah, I see. So one of the chevrons is for one. Okay, interesting. So each chevron had, of the 3 that were remaining on the end, had to do with a different location.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So the Stargate was going to go in other places.
Yeah. We had big plans for it, but we never got to explore it.
Can you talk about the casting process for the original movie? Any of the characters that we haven't discussed that that surprised you when they were brought to life?
We were having a lot of trouble finding our female lead, Shaori.
Yes.
And we'd already started shooting the movie, and we hadn't cast it yet. And everyone was freaking out and just saying, what are we going to do? But Roland was absolutely adamant. He said, I'm not casting someone who's a compromise. She's got to walk in the door, and we got to know it's her. And when this young actress from Israel showed up,
Millie Avital,
it just blew our minds. Millie not only nailed it, but also gave her a strength and an independence that was beyond what we were writing, and made it much more interesting. And I learned a real valuable lesson from Roland that day, that you don't compromise. You got to get the right casting, or it just doesn't work.
Yeah, the consequences can be, there's.
Well, the consequence that we had on that was Jay Davidson, because Jay Davidson had just been nominated for an Oscar for what was the name of that movie?
It's The Crying something.
The Crying Game.
Yeah,
The Crying Game. And so our executive producer said, "Oh, this guy's going to be worth a fortune for us in foreign sales." But we thought, is this guy really someone who can go toe to toe with Kurt Russell, or is that going to be believable?
And Shader.
Yeah, and we shot the movie, and it didn't work, and he didn't work. It was bad casting. It wasn't right. And I'll never forget, Roland and I were in a car together, just lamenting that our whole movie was falling apart because our villain was not working. And then I remember I turned to Roland and said, "Wait a minute, Roland. Ra doesn't work for the aliens. He is an alien." And Roland goes, "We've already shot the picture. How do we do that change?" And I go, "We'll do a day of reshoots." And so that whole turning Ra into an alien was all done on a Sunday.
Beforehand, he worked for them?
The originals, if you look at the extended version, there's this scene where
they come and grab him.
They come and grab him. And in the original, they grabbed him to come work for them. And so he was their slave master, in essence. But that didn't work at all.
You cheeky buggers, you hit it well. So never considered that.
So when we changed it, we made his voice weird. We made his eyes go out. We put an alien inside of his skull. It looked great. Then all that weird behavior he was doing suddenly had a meaning.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I'm blown away. Wow. Okay. Well, you have to work with what you've got, and if it's already in the can, what do you do? Figure it out. Absolutely. You're going to find a way.
The interesting thing was, I was so worried that he was going to be upset, because that's not what we had intended. And I'll never forget, he saw the picture and he came to me with tears in his eyes and he said, "You saved me." He goes, "I thought I had ruined the picture." He goes, you saved me. So he loved the change that we had done.
Wow.
That was a surprise, and I was grateful.
How nice. Absolutely. Yeah. I was so surprised years later in finding out that there was going to be that there were 2 more films in the original trilogy planned, because there's so few movies these days that end with the end, and Stargate does. I was like, that was good, and then I found out that you wanted to do 2 more for the original trilogy. Is there anything that you can say about what you wanted to do with it? I'd love to hear whatever you're willing to say. You just told earlier that there were 2 other locations that were planned. So a location for each additional movie.
I'll say this just because I don't think we're ever going to get to do it.
Right.
So, you know, there are 2 different places on Earth that are famous for pyramids. You know, and one was an Egyptian, and our second was going to be a Mayan culture.
Okay. So not necessarily Ra's race again. He was the last of his race for good.
Yeah. And then the third was going to tie in almost every mystery that we've ever had on Earth, whether it was Bigfoot or the Yeti, or we were going to tie everything into a larger mythology.
Tapestry.
Yeah. And it was going to be so much fun. It was going to be so wild, but we never got to go there. We never got to explore it.
Was it the TV franchise, the success of the TV franchise, that where MGM was like, no, we're just not interested in doing it this direction? What was it? Money? What was the biggest factor in not pursuing that?
It was the television show. Okay. I mean, what had happened was, again, the film was made entirely independently. There was no studio involved. So MGM agreed to release the film when no one else would release it because no one believed in the movie. And the week before the movie opened, the people who had financed the movie, which was a group out of France, they were so sure that they had a bomb, they sold the movie to MGM for $5 million. So then MGM owned the movie.
And I'm guessing even in that money, that was a steal at that time, right?
Oh, yeah, well, it's a movie that cost $50 million.
$50 million.
And it made over $200 million at that time. It was the largest October opening in history at that time. And so MGM now owned it. And they decided they wanted to do a TV series. Roland and I went in to meet with them to talk about the series. And they said, oh, we don't really want you guys involved. And we were like, really? Okay. And they went on their own. Okay. And, you know, so it was a very painful thing for a long time because you're watching.
Yeah, something that you gave
somebody
birth
else
to.
raise your children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was very hard. And that's why, you know, it was so interesting because I was very hostile to the series, especially because I don't
blame you.
But the first couple episodes of the series had full frontal nudity. Yeah. And I was like, that's not Stargate.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any idea what show we're doing?
Yeah. Even so Brad Wright had a problem with that. That was Showtime. Showtime said, if you want this, it has to have that. And then they never did it again. And the final cut of Children of the Gods, they took it out. So
yeah. So I had kind of, you know, rebelled again. I was angry that the studio had cut us out of it, that they didn't want to do the movies. But what was interesting is that many years later, it was obvious to me that even though I had not been watching the show, that they must have been doing something right, because you don't get to live that long. You don't get to have that many fans. You don't get that kind of passion unless you've done a really good show.
17 seasons, 350 episodes. Something's working. And the passion of the fan base has only grown.
So I reached out to Jonathan Glassner, and I said, let's go have lunch. And it was
can you repeat that, Dean? I just lost you. You reached out to Jonathan Glassner?
I reached out to Jonathan Glassner, who I had never met. And as you said, 17 seasons of Stargate. And we go out and we have lunch and we hit it off. And next thing I know, he and I are doing The Outpost together.
Absolutely.
And he and I've actually talked about a very different Stargate idea, you know, and I hope one day I can talk to MGM about it as a series.
So as a series, not the reboot trilogy that you were working.
No, I think that ship has sailed.
Okay.
I think it's sailed.
Thanks for watching this clip from Dial the Gate. You can find the full live stream shows on our YouTube channel or visit dialthegate.com for the complete schedule. See you on the other side.